now we're recording too. Okay, so when you first start video, one of the most important things for you to do is manage your files. So what you want to do is create a folder on your desktop or on an external drive where you're going to move all of your video clips to. So have all of your video clips off that camera card, off your phone, and into a folder. Then kick out your phone, kick out the camera card, because you want to make sure that you're linking to your local files, not to a camera card, not to your phone. Once you get those copied, I always like to start organizing things. So organizing things with B-roll or interview, nat sound, whatever you've captured, and then give things a little name, even if it's a very basic description of what's going on. I know some people who like to kind of number things because they have in mind like how they're going to set things up already as they shoot. So doing that, having some type of rating system. And my theory at this stage of the game is don't get rid of anything. Don't delete clips, even if it's the ugliest clip in the world. You never know when you might need something, even if it's just the background sound. So we're going to pretend that I've copied all of my files over, I've organized them, and now I'm ready to get into my video editing. So let's just switch our shares. For some reason, whenever I'm sharing, Premiere is reluctant to come up as a share. So we will just try to do this as a desktop share. And see if that works. All right. Do you guys see Premiere in the background now? Give me a thumbs up if you can see kind of the Premiere. Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, so this is the Premiere home screen, and just a couple things I'm going to point out to you. There's a pretty robust learning tutorial system now that they've launched in the Adobe Suite, and all of these tutorials open in the app. So if you want to practice and have some like on-screen cues, those are great ways to start. I'm going to start from the home page, and you can see here's all of my existing projects that I've started. And for us, we're going to start a new project. So I'm going to name this J304. And then I want to change the location. So the location by default, if you've used Premiere, it's going to go to your last folder. If not, it's going to go to a very hidden documents file folder. So always make sure you hit browse. And where you want to go is the same location where all your clips are. So I'm going to find that J304, and then there's that hot glass media, and we're just going to create our project right in there. So that inside this folder lives all of my clips as well as my Premiere project. So I'm going to hit choose, and then I'm going to hop over to my scratch disks and make sure that those are the same as my project folder. And hit OK. And now we have a Premiere project, and nothing's happening yet. So let's just do a little orientation to kind of Workspaces and what we're seeing here. So along the top, we have our menus, and it's important to note that these are called menus, mainly because you have both a graphics menu, and then down here you have a graphics workspace. So these are all workspaces, and we're going to start in our editing workspace and then kind of move around to a couple of other workspaces. Down here we have our project bin, and bin is a fancy Premiere word for folder. So we're going to import all of our project files here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Command-I, and I'm going to go into that folder where we have all of our B-roll and interview and music, And notice there's that project we set up. So the Premiere project is always with the extension .proj. And one of the cool things that Premiere does is it auto saves. So Premiere's going to build some folders in here that say auto saves. That way, if we forget to save, we can go back to those. I'm going to import, and notice I selected the folders. I selected the folders because those are going to import as those folders into my project bin. So now I can start looking at all of these clips. I can double click folders. I can view things as a list, as an icon. In the icon view, I can kind of scrub through clips just by mousing over them and get a preview of what they are. I can switch to the freeform view, and freeform view lets me move clips around. So if I'm deciding how I want to organize, I can kind of almost set up like a little mini timeline here to see how things work. I can change the size. And if I ever need any new folders, I can create those in that new bin. So I'm going to go back to my icon view. To get to my interview clips, I just use this little up arrow. And now I'm in the project file, and I can go into my interview. And same thing, I can mouse over my clips. Up here is my source pane. In that, we're going to set our ins and outs. Over here is my program playback. And here's my timeline where I'm going to build everything. Tool panel, and then audio levels. So we're going to start by setting up our sequence. And when you set up your sequence, you want to drag a clip that has both audio and video. And that's going to establish what are called your sequence settings. You don't necessarily have to keep that as your first one, but you're going to drag that in there to get started. I'm going to drag and drop Miss Susie over there. And you'll notice we've just added this to our project bin. This is my sequence. And if I don't want it to be named the same as the clip I dragged, I can just control click on it and rename it. And we're just going to call this sequence 1 with our B-roll. Now over here, all of my settings have been established with both video and audio. So I can delete this clip. I no longer need it. Let's take a look at our different tracks that we have. So all of the V tracks, those where video goes. All the A track is where audio goes. Now, generally speaking, when I'm building a sequence, V1 and A1 are my A interview role. So it's my main interview. V2 is where I'd put my B roll. And V3 is where I'd put any lower third or crayons that I might need in my project. A1 is where my interview lives. A2 might be any type of voiceovers I do, and A3 might be any music. So let's start building some B-roll in here. I'm going to go up in my project bin. I'm just going to zoom in so you guys can see this. This is all that little arrow is. That's a little hard to see over there. That gives you an idea of what that looks like. So let's go into our B-roll. And we're going to start layering in some clips. So I'm going to start with kind of this finished glass. And so I've just double clicked it. And now I have it up here in my source pane. I'm going to use my playhead. And that's that little guitar pick. I have one here. I have one down here in my timeline as well. So to set my in and out points, I just drag my playhead to where I want it to start, and I hit I for in. Then I drag it down to where I want it to end, and I hit O for out. Now this clip, if I look at these little icons right here, I only have video on this clip. The sound is dragged out. But I point these out because I can choose to drag just video or just audio on any of my clips. So in this case, I'm just going to drag video. And since this is B-roll, it's going to go right onto V2. So I've got that clip. Now, setting an out point or an end point is not like cropping. If I wanted to make this a little bit longer, I can just add to that clip. And now it's the full length. If I don't like that, I can just Command Z. Bring this clip up. Now note this one does have audio with it. So I want to make sure that I definitely drag just video on this clip. And with this one, I'm not even going to set an in and out. I'm just going to drag the whole thing in. Because I can also set in and out points over here. Let's get a few more clips. And so one thing to do when you're doing your B-roll is to just kind of think about like what is your overall story sequence that you're telling. And notice the clips that I'm choosing are all kind of the same medium shot. One of the things you want to do when you're shooting your video is just make sure that you're getting a variety of shots. So this is a little bit more of an overall shot. And I really like that. In fact, I think I want it to go between these two clips. So I'm going to hover my playhead right there between those two clips. And I can start using some of my other tools here. So I have an insert and an overwrite that I can use at this point. So I'm going to use this insert and literally pop this clip in between the two. So I'll click that and boom, it popped in. Now it popped below. That's because I have everything going, my source patching going to V1. Not a big deal. All I need to do is just drag that up and it's right in there. So now I have some shot variety. So I go for a close-up, I pull back out, and then I'm back in for a close-up. While you're shooting, I always like to call it the shot cha-cha-cha. So think to yourself, a wide shot, a medium shot, and then a tight shot. So let's find one more of these. Let's see, I think this one maybe. And I can also skip the source pane together. So if I just wanted to bring this over here, I can. And then I can use my tools inside my timeline and just trim clips up. So we've got a pretty decent B-roll sequence. Let's talk about our overall time. So right up here, you can see this is where my playhead position is. And this reads, I'll zoom in for you there, reads hours, minutes, seconds, frames. That's where my playhead is. Over on the right-hand side, this is the total duration of my clips. So really, I have a 35-second B-roll here. So if I wanted to roll that back and make it an even 30, I would just need to go into my clips and just trim those back so I get closer to that 30. So now that I've got some B-roll in there, let's go and grab an interview clip and talk about how we can start layering in our interview clips with our B-roll. I'm going to double click into my interview. And this time we're going to play this clip. So to play this clip, all I need to do is hit my space bar.
Having the opportunity to dip my blowpipe into incredibly hot glass and make the magic happen.
So I'm going to hit an out point there. So another technique you can use up in this timeline is only setting one thing. So I'm just going to set an out point right there. And so notice some of the things that Susie said. She said she was talking about dipping the hot glass and the blowpipe. These are great visuals, and if we can line that visual of her talking up inside the timeline, that's a wonderful thing. So we're going to bring this video clip, and we're going to bring it right into V1A1. Now, one of the things you want to think about is, as we get started, and we'll play what we have.
So I love the privilege of actually having the opportunity to dip my...
It can be a little off-putting if we start the video and we're hearing someone that we can't see. So we're going to shift some of these clips around. There's a couple ways we can do that. I can select all of these clips just by marking over them in my timeline and then dragging them down, or I can grab my track select forward, grab clips and drag them down. So I'm just going to grab these top ones because I just want them, and I'm going to move them down to right there. And so then we have...
So I love the privilege of actually having the opportunity to dip my blowpipe into incredibly hot gas and make the magic happen.
So that last quote would actually go better with one of these scenes. So then I start thinking about, well, how do I actually want this to begin? And maybe I actually want this to begin with a voiceover. So now I'm going to select all of my clips with that track forward, and I'm going to give myself about 17 seconds to introduce Sally or Susie. And I'm going to drag this clip down at the beginning. So we're going to start with a voiceover with her art, then go into her interview, and then have some of these other clips. So let's look at how I would want to add in a voiceover on this. And let's just check in really quick. How are we all doing? Does anyone have any questions or anything thus far? We're all doing good. Okay. All right. So to get things ready for a voiceover, I need to do some settings in my audio track. I'm actually going to switch to my headphones. So one of the things you want to be very aware as you're doing voiceovers is things are going to sound better even if you just do your earbuds with your microphone. So we're just going to pop over here. Hopefully, let's see. Can you guys give me a thumbs up that you can still hear me okay? Okay, good deal. Always good to check. All right, so down here, I'm going to do some edits to what my audio tracks. So I'm going to start by expanding this audio track. And as I expanded it, you notice I have both this R and this microphone there. If I don't have those there, I'm going to go up to my wrench. And inside my wrench, I want to customize my audio header. When I go into that, I can just drag that R and that microphone down into that track. So I'm going to click the R, and that just says, hey, I'm going to record to A2. Now, as soon as I hit the microphone, it's going to start giving me a countdown so I can do my voiceover. Before I do that, I want to check a couple of things. So I'm going to go up to where it says Premiere Pro, and I'm going to go to my Preferences and Audio. And what I want to do is make sure that I don't hear the track while I'm recording and that I'm not double recording the tracks. This always takes a little while. So what I'm looking for is that I've checkmarked mute input during timeline recording. I'm also, while I'm going to check my audio hardware, and I'm going to make sure that my audio hardware is the same as the headset I'm using. So I'm going to hit OK. So I've checked all my settings. I'm actually still going to mute this track just to make sure I don't hear it. And I'm going to hit the voiceover record. My playhead is right at the beginning here. So we're going to get a countdown. It's going to be 3 seconds, and then I'm going to give myself another second or two before I start talking. Susie has been a glass artist for 40 years. Her work is now on display at the Lawrence Arts Center Gallery. Okay, so I've got my audio, and you'll notice at the end I stopped, but I didn't stop my recording right away, and here's why. Look at this nice space that I built for myself down here to edit. So I've got both of those spaces there to edit. I've also got a very nice start on where I might add some other B-roll clips. So none of this is, locked in stone as to how you might do things. So we're going to add that. We're going to trim this up. So again, selecting my tracks, moving them down. So now let's see what we have. And let's unmute everything. Center gallery. And I am going to bring this up a little closer. So you can see just trimming things. I'm going to switch my headset off. Editing Susie's audio. So what I wanted you to look at is she should be falling between 6 and 12 over here. And she's a little bit lower.
Privilege of actually having the opportunity to.
So what we're going to do is switch to our audio workspace. So remember, our workspaces are along this top menu. We're going to switch to audio. And when we do that, all kinds of things move around. What we're looking for is the edit menu. And so we're going to select her audio. We're going to set it as a dialogue. Going into our preset over here, we're just going to make sure that we have it be a balanced female voice. And you can see you have all kinds of other options that you can use. So we've got it set as a balanced female voice, and we're going to boost it, let's say, a half a decibel. So now let's play through and see where she falls.
Having the opportunity to
much better.
Dip my blowpipe into.
So notice it's kind of kissing that red. Kissing the red is fine. You don't want it up there making out with the red. We can also check mine, and I'm going to be a little loud. On display at the Lawrence Arts Center Gallery. Not too bad. And so I can add that same, if I want to bump my voice a little bit, I can do that as well with that audio editing. Let's add a lower third to Susie. So we're going to switch workspaces again. This time we're going to go into our graphics workspace. So inside our graphics workspace, we're going to start to create a lower third for Susie. And I don't want it right away when she starts talking. I just wanted a few seconds in on that audio. So I've moved my playhead to that part of the timeline. I'm going to grab my type tool, and I'm going to create. All right. So along this right-hand side is where I can change all of my text features. So if I want to change the font, the size, all of those things, I can do that. I can change back to my selection tool, move this to wherever I want to go. Well, you can see this is still kind of getting lost in the background. I'm going to go up to my graphics menu this time, go to layer, and I'm going to add a rectangle. Now this rectangle needs to be moved behind Susie. We'll get this into place.
And I can change the opacity of that as well. So the opacity is this button right here. And then I can just see through that a little bit. Looks pretty nice. This is what I created. So just like any other clip, I can trim that in my timeline and decide how long that's going to be on screen. So here's what we have so far. Susie has been a glass artist for 40 years. Her work is now on display at the Lawrence Arts Center Gallery.
So I love the privilege of actually having the opportunity to dip my blowpipe into incredibly hot glass and make the magic happen.
And so that's pretty good. So there's quite a few tweaks I would do. I'd kind of move some of this around. I think like right around here, I need to do some work, but you kind of get the point of what we're doing. So now we're ready to, well, let me see if there's any questions or things that I need to show you guys again, or that you're not feeling good about, anything at all.
Could you just go back to how you change the sound, like the?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the audio panel?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that with mine. Any other things that I can show you again? Okay. And Carrie, I forget, are they going to be doing any like, do they have a music layer they're going to do in?
They don't have one of that. They don't have a music layer for their video, but they will for their public service announcement
Okay.
if they choose. So they need to know how to do that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll show you how to edit for quality, and then I'll add how to kind of keyframe some music in as well. All right. So let's go into my clip. And what I'm looking at is the levels.
Susie has been a glass artist for 40
And so
years.
I'm pretty good because
Her
I'm
work
kind of
is
loud.
now on display.
So I don't need to worry about levels, but I could edit the quality of this. So I'm going to switch to my audio workspace. When I switch to that audio workspace, I'm going to select what I'm working with. And then I'm going to set this as dialogue. So if I look over here on the right-hand side, I'm in edit, and then I'm assigning a tag based on the type of audio it is. So I'm going to say it's dialogue. And then here under this preset menu, you can see all the different options I have. I'm going to change it to balanced female. And let's just play that without any other edits.
Glass artist for 40 years. Her work is now on display at the Lawrence Arts Center.
And so that cleaned up quite a bit of my voice. And then I can go down to this section, and if I need to do, I always like that one, like locked in a trunk. What video are you putting together that your preset is locked in the trunk? I don't know. If I needed to adjust my audio level, I would do that down here as well. But I'm pretty happy with that. So let's look at adding music in. So I'm going to go back to my editing. I'm going to go back up into my main bin, dig into music, and I'm going to add music. I'm going to drag this down. We're going to come over here to this blank area so we can look at the levels. And so with music, you want it to fall 12 to 18. And music you need to be aware of when other people are talking. So let's look at how we want this to work. So if I play this,
Susie has been a glass artist.
you can hear the music and me almost on the same level. So we want to edit a little bit. So again, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to hover on that gray line. I'm going to just expand this track a little bit. And if you see that white line, that's actually my audio level. And what I want is as soon as I start talking, this audio to drop down. So I'm going to grab in my toolbar my pen tool. And with my pen tool, I'm going to click on that audio and just add a couple of dots. And with that, I'm going to click and drag and drop that audio down. So that now when I play, here's what we have. Susie has been a glass artist for 40 years. Her work is now on display at the Lawrence Arts Center Gallery.
So I love the privilege of actually having the opportunity to
So you can see it's dipped down, and then when I get to the end here, I can add that music back up. So back to my pen tool, and I'm going to just click a couple of dots with that pen tool, and just what I want is a gradual kind of curve up. You don't want like the bottom to completely drop out. And so let's play this. So here at the end,
magic happens.
so that shows you how you can edit that audio and bring in that music and do what's called keyframing. A little trick I'm going to show you here. On your keyboard, there's a key I guarantee none of you have used. It's called the Tilde Key. It's right below the escape key. It's that little squiggly key. If I hit that little squiggly key, I can bounce my entire timeline into its own window. And sometimes this helps me kind of zoom in and see those sections a little bit better. And then when I want to get back out of them, I can hit the Tilde Key again. The other thing I think is helpful for viewing is expanding your video clips. And you'll notice that you can see all of my clips from beginning to end here, like the visual of them. To get to that, all you have to do is hover up at the top of your sequence. There's a little hamburger menu, and you can scroll down and view continuous video thumbnails. Most of the time, by default, that is not checked. So if you like to view all of your thumbnails, give that little hamburger menu right there a try, and then you'll be able to see all of those clips really well. And expanding those tracks allows you to see all your audio waves. Any other questions? Things I can show you again. All right, I'm going to prepare for exporting now. So to export, I want to make sure that I'm selected on my timeline. So you'll notice I have a blue line all the way around my timeline. And I'm going to go to File, Export, Media. Actually, let me, hold on. We're going to cancel this. There we go. So I want to show you, so this last audio clip is longer than I need. I'm going to grab my razor tool and just cut it, my selection tool, and hit the delete and delete it. So you can always trim things with that razor tool as well. All right, back to our export. So I am exporting this sequence, and I'm going with a format of H.264. That's the codec I use. I'm going to drop my preset down, and what I want to use for my preset is YouTube 1080p Full HD. So that's your preset. Just going to side note that you have all kinds of other presets you can use. So if you're doing social, there's a Twitter one. Next, I'm going to click on my output name. So I'm going to click on that output name and make sure that it's going back to my original folder. It's going to save out as an MP4. I'm going to hit save. And so I'm going to make sure that I'm doing my entire sequence down here. So that's everything that was in my timeline. I'm okay with all of my defaults for my video and audio based on the preset that I chose. And I'm going to hit export. And so now it's going through all of its encoding and exporting, and we ended up having 41 seconds. So that isn't too shabby, and you can see there's our Susie final video in there. Susie has been a class architect. And so there we are.